Hey guys, it's TechGreen here. In today's video, we're going to answer a very important question. Which GPU is the best for encoding your stream to go live to YouTube, Twitch, Kick, or really any platform in general? Is it AMD or is it Nvidia? That's the question we're going to answer here today. So the GPU we got for AMD side, we got the new RX 9060 XT, the 16GB model. Now this GPU is extremely good for gaming during my testing, I found out, and it can surprisingly encode a stream at the exact same time with no issue. But there are some problems with it. And now for Nvidia side, we got ourselves the RTX 5060 8GB model. This is a similar price point as the RX 9060 XT. However, it has 8GB less of VRAM, but at the same time too, Nvidia has been very good about their video encoders when it comes to actually streaming and gaming. So will the actual 8GB of VRAM be fine or bad? That's a serious question. I'm curious. I figure that's what's going to be the case with this. So how we're going to do this testing is we're going to have a single PC setup running where we actually have OBS. We have a display capture going on to capture our gameplay, and then we have a webcam to actually capture any interactions or reactions we possibly have. It's not the best possible camera angle, but you know, it's going to give the most real world example. Now let's go over our actual settings, and we're going to start with the actual 9060 XT 16GB first. And I want to show you guys the encoding settings because it's different than actually using Nvidia settings. So if we go to our output, you can actually see here for our video encoder, we are using the AMD hardware encoder, the H.264, because it does not allow it to actually use the actual, what's it called, the AV1 encoder when streaming to Twitch. I'm not sure why that's the case, it just is. And so for things, we're gonna use CBR 6000, keyframe interval set to 0, quality, high profile, and our B frame set to 3. And our video settings we'll use for both GPUs will be 1080p for the base canvas and output, and actually 60 FPS for the common FPS value. What we're gonna do is we're gonna go live to Twitch with OBS, and then for the actual multi-stream plugin, if you are interested in that, full video link down below how to set that up, we're gonna go live to actually Kick. So for our testing, we are gonna use multi-streaming because I feel like multi-streaming is becoming much more of a common thing for people to actually do, because why not just stream not only to Twitch, but maybe the Kick or some other platform to increase your chances of getting more viewers. So we're gonna use 3 different games for our testing here for streaming. The first game we'll be using is Apex Legends because it's one of those games that's always been really demanding on a single PC setup. So we're gonna have it set to high for the timing using 4GB of VRAM, and just to see how it does. For our second game we'll be testing with, we'll be using Rust. And of course, this is a CPU bound game more than it's a GPU bound game, but I thought it would be interesting to see the results between these two GPUs when it actually comes for streaming. So we're actually use medium settings, and we're not gonna mess with anything for the time being, just leave it as this. Now for our third game, we'll be using Fortnite on DirectX 12 with unlimited FPS on high settings to see how both of these GPUs perform while streaming. So when testing the RX 9060 XT 16GB model, it did really good for gaming and streaming at the exact same time. However, it still has an issue that was noticeable in the past generations of their GPUs. So keep in mind, even though this is a newer series GPUs, the actual video encoder on it is the same video encoder as their 7000 series GPU, which is also similar to that of their actual 6000 series GPU, meaning that it hasn't really improved a whole. And you can actually really notice this when you start moving your mouse and start flicking, where you can see all this weird noise and buzz from actually that movement. And when you stand still, it's hardly noticeable, but once you start moving your mouse around, it's really obvious that you see that weird artifacting, especially in Rust, where this game was more CPU bound than GPU bound, but even then, it's really obvious to actually see it there, and it's actually really painful to look at. Like, it's not terrible, it's still watchable, it's not particularly the best at the end of the day. And now for Fortnite on the other hand, it still did really good. Like, there was a bit of this noise and blur, but it wasn't impacting too much to the point where it looked terrible. There were some instances where it did really show it, but yeah, that's what you're gonna kind of get with AMD GPUs. Like, they're very, very good if you want to get the most FPS for your dollar, but they aren't particularly the best if you plan to use them for professional grade work, maybe video editing, or maybe some other applications. Now, they do have some other things, like the VRAM does come in clutch in certain applications, but for like video, it's not particularly the best for the encoder. Now for our Nvidia GPU for streaming, what we're gonna have the settings set to for our video encoder is the NVENC encoder for H.264. We're gonna do constant bitrate 6000, good quality, and then on top of that, high quality for tuning, and then 2-pass actually for quarter resolution and set the high, just to see it actually does for streaming. And then of course, we're gonna do the exact same thing we did earlier. We're gonna go live to actually Twitch, and then we're also gonna go live to actually Kick. Now, next up, we have the RTX 5060 8GB model. Now, I'm actually kind of surprised at the results of this. Now, even though we have both these games set for high settings, that means they're probably using more than like 4GB of VRAM consistently. The RTX 5060 with the video encoder, and 8 gigabytes of VRAM still did really good. And this is very noticeable with the mouse cursor movement, where you can actually see him start flicking around when I'm chasing this one kid, where it actually doesn't lose that quality and have that noise. It has a bit of noise, but it's not very noticeable compared to the AMD GPUs, where when you start flicking with the AMD GPUs, it was very obvious that you were going to notice some actual noise that made the footage look a bit like iffy. Not the greatest in the world, but it was still watchable, but it was still painful. So yeah, Nvidia's encoder on their newer series GPUs have definitely improved, but at the same time too, the 8 gigabytes of VRAM they give this GPU is honestly not really a whole lot, because when we started fighting the Sparrow here, we actually had some frame drops here and there. Now they weren't too big, but you can see during this fight it was a little bit choppy here and there, and that's because the 8 gigabytes of VRAM was trying to pull from the game and also for OBS. It really does show that VRAM can actually help you when you're actually encoding videos. But yeah, on Rust it looked good too. There was a bit of noise when you started flicking around. It wasn't as bad as actually AMD's GPUs, but I will say it was pretty annoying with the actual noise. There was some distinguished noise there. And when it came to Fortnite, I will quickly say the RTX 5060 really did show that this GPU is very good for gaming and streaming. But the important thing to keep in mind is that we weren't getting as much FPS as the RX 9060 XT. Now, that's just because of the fact that the 9060 XT has like 16 gigabytes of VRAM. It's very good at gaming, but of course the encoder really does show when comparing to Fortnite, it wasn't particularly the best. Where you can see here with the Nvidia GPU, it's doing a very good job of consistently maintaining the quality while we're mouse flicking around this actual stairwell here. And if we use the AMD GPU, we would have noticed some noise instantaneously with this. So I'm kind of surprised at this. The only time we really noticed any noise was when we stepped outside. This changed the scenery from actually being very dark to very bright. But yeah, it was much better. So let's go over my final thoughts now. Who's got the better video encoder for streaming and recording? Now, we got AMD over here, who's actually doing a very good job of maintaining their GPUs with the 16 gigabytes of VRAM and more VRAM for the actual budget gamers. But at the exact same time too, it kind of hurts just because the 9060 XT does so good for gaming and streaming. Keep in mind, this whole time we're multi-streaming. The only problem with this GPU is its video encoder for H.264 has not improved since their 6000 series GPUs. Like, don't get me wrong, on their 7000 series GPUs, they made it so the GPU die and the video encoder are separate. So that's nice for pulling VRAM. However, it doesn't matter at the end of the day if the actual encoder itself hasn't improved upon what it's actually doing. And it looks very good at times to very meh at times when you actually start moving around, compared to Nvidia, where they still maintain that video encoder, but now they have an issue of like they're not giving enough VRAM. It's weird. It's like super weird what's going on with the actual like GPU market right now for budget gamers. So my honest opinion is this: if you are still planning to game and stream at the exact same time, go with Nvidia. The quality will look better long term and also looks really nice, but you will have to probably spend a small fortune to actually get the best of both worlds, because you probably will need to go with, I say, a 5060 Ti, which most people are buying anyways, compared to the RTX 5060 8 gig. Don't buy it, it's not worth. Or the RTX 5070. Like, the 9060 XT, I think, is out there for people who do want to be able to game and stream, but they're mostly looking to actually game in the long run while getting the most FPS possible for their actual money. Yeah, it's painful because like I feel like AMD could really actually kick Nvidia's butt when it comes to their H.264 encoder if they did improve upon it, especially with the amount of VRAM they're giving to consumers now. Just that encoder is just not there. Their AV1 encoder is very good. The problem with their AV1 encoders though is that most platforms aren't supporting AV1 to stream to currently. They are adding support to it down the line. So I could see AV1 become the norm, and AMD could actually just take over the market for actually like budget GPUs for gaming and streaming at the exact same time, just because the VRAM is really good, the gaming's really good. That's that streaming performance is lacking. That's my honest thoughts about AMD versus Nvidia. If you guys did find this video helpful here today, make sure to smash the like button and get subscribed to some Mr. Future Tech content. I'll see everyone on Tech Grant out.